Imagine this, your closest friend, someone you've trusted for years, suddenly turns into a dictator. Every time you breathe wrong, he throws his favorite phrase in your face. My house, my rules. Now picture quietly packing your things, walking out without warning, and then watching as his entire life collapses like a badly built tower of cards. That's exactly what happened to me, and the satisfaction. Well, let's just say I can still taste it 20 years later. If you've ever had a toxic roommate or a so-called friend who thought they owned you, you're going to enjoy this. Because what started as a miserable living situation turned into one of the sweetest moments of revenge I've ever had. This story goes all the way back to 2004, though the roots started in 2001 when I first left home to start university. I was 18, green, eager, maybe a little naive. I'd just stepped into the world of late-night essays, cheap instant noodles, and the thrill of independence. My parents hugged me goodbye with that mix of pride and worry, and I dove headfirst into student life. That's where I met Donald. He was one of my first-year roommates in student halls, and we hit it off right away. At the time, Donald was everything you'd want in a friend. Funny, outgoing. The kind of guy who could light up a room with a joke and have the bartender remembering his name. We spent countless nights sitting on creaky dorm beds, eating takeaway pizza, laughing until our sides hurt. By the end of the year, Donald wasn't just a buddy, he felt like family. Naturally, when the hall's lease ended, we moved into a house share with two other friends. A 4-bedroom house full of mismatched furniture, clutter, and constant laughter. The kind of chaos that feels magical when you're 19 and free for the first time. For 3 years, that's how I knew Donald. A brother. Someone I trusted. Someone I thought would be in my life for good. But people change. Or maybe they just stop hiding who they really are. When that lease ended, Donald was done with university. He had landed a job at a bank and was suddenly all about being an adult. He bought a 2-bedroom flat, proudly showing off the mortgage like a trophy, and offered me the spare room. At first I was touched. It felt like a generous move, proof that our friendship meant something. I agreed, thinking it would be a smooth next chapter, and for a while it was fine. But soon the Donald I thought I knew started slipping away. It began small. He grew more withdrawn, less willing to hang out, less interested in our old routines. Then came the comments, sharp little jabs dressed as jokes. Friends stopped visiting because he made them feel unwelcome. He'd toss out insults, then laugh. Relax, it's just a joke. He said it so often it became a shield for cruelty. Meanwhile, his aunt, she started showing up constantly, barging in without notice like she owned the place. She was nosy, overbearing, and condescending. If I left a single plate in the sink, she'd scold me as if I were a teenager. If my shoes weren't neatly lined up, she'd tut under her breath. And Donald? Instead of defending me, he encouraged it. It was as if he enjoyed watching me squirm. The real cracks showed a few months in. Donald announced he was getting Sky TV back then, the shiny new status symbol of cable television. Cool, I said, but honestly, I can't afford that right now. Between rent, food, uni, and my part-time job, I'm stretched thin. That's when I saw the smirk, that smug little grin that would haunt me for months. Then you don't get a say in what we watch. My TV, my rules. At first, I thought he was joking. He wasn't. That line became his weapon of choice. If there were dishes in the sink, my house, my rules. If the trash wasn't taken out, maybe you should rethink living here. If I reminded him, I was working 4 days a week in retail and pulling 3 9-to-5 uni days. You don't know what real work is until you've done a proper job. Every conversation became a performance of power. He wanted control, and he got off on reminding me that technically, the flat was his. It wore me down. I stopped inviting friends over. I ate meals alone in my room. I kept my head down, doing dishes, scrubbing counters, taking bins out, always one step ahead to avoid another smug lecture. But no matter how much I did, it was never enough. Donald had mastered gaslighting. If I insisted I'd already done my share, he'd raise his voice, slam a cupboard, accuse me of lying. He twisted every argument until somehow I was the lazy, ungrateful one. Inside, I was boiling, but outside, I stayed quiet. It was easier that way, or so I thought. Then, out of nowhere, came my lifeline. One evening, a friend mentioned casually that someone they knew was looking for a roommate. It was like a spark in the dark. My ears perked up, and without hesitation, I asked for the details. I went to see the room. The moment I walked in, I felt relief. Freedom. It wasn't fancy, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that it wasn't Donald's kingdom. I accepted on the spot. For the first time in months, I could breathe. But I didn't tell Donald. Not a word. Why should I? After all his smug, maybe you should move out taunts. Why give him the satisfaction of a warning? No. If he wanted me gone so badly, then he was going to get it. But on my terms. So I planned, quietly, carefully. I started packing boxes when he was out, stacking them neatly in my closet. I booked time off work, and when I told my parents, they didn't hesitate. They offered to drive up and help me move. Saturday morning came, bright and cool. My parents arrived early, and together we carried box after box into the living room. My heart pounded with every trip, not from nerves but from anticipation. Then it happened. Donald walked in. He stopped dead in his tracks. His eyes flicked from the boxes to my parents, confusion spreading across his face, and in an instant the act began. The smug tyrant vanished, replaced by Mr. Charming. His voice turned honey-sweet. "Oh, I didn't know you were visiting," he said to my mom, smiling like we were still best buddies. That's when I delivered the line I'd been waiting to say for weeks. "They're not visiting," I said evenly. "They're here to move me out. I've got a new flat. I decided I didn't want to live by your rules after all." Silence. I wish I had a photograph of his face. The fake smile froze. His jaw slackened and the color drained from his cheeks. He looked like someone had just pulled the rug out from under him. For a moment, he just stood there blinking, waiting for me to laugh and say it was a joke. But no one laughed. My parents carried on, lifting boxes, chatting happily. And Donald? He skulked off to his room, sulking like a child. 2 car trips later, I was gone. That was it. I didn't even say goodbye. I placed my keys neatly on the coffee table, the final punctuation mark on his endless lectures, and walked out the door. The relief was immediate. Sitting in my new room that evening, surrounded by unpacked boxes, I felt lighter than I had in months. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Donald. "I'm really sorry for the way I behaved. I hope we can still be friends." I laughed so hard I nearly cried. After everything, after months of smug control and constant gaslighting, that was his attempt at reconciliation. I typed back one word. "Ha ha 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 ha!" And that was it. That was the last time I ever spoke to him. But karma wasn't done with Donald. Oh no. A mutual friend filled me in a few months later. Turns out no one wanted to live with him. Word had spread about his toxic behavior. He'd burned every bridge he had, and potential roommates knew better than to trust him. Without me paying rent, he couldn't afford the mortgage on his shiny flat. The bills piled up and his proud independence crumbled. Within months, he was forced to sell the place, quit his bank job, and, most humiliating of all, move back in with his mom. The self-proclaimed king of my house, my rules didn't even have a house anymore. And me? My new roommate turned out to be one of the best friends I've ever had. We're still close, even 20 years later. I built a new chapter for myself, while Donald's little empire collapsed in on itself. Looking back, the most satisfying part wasn't just leaving. It was the look on his face in that moment, the instant he realized I'd taken his favorite phrase, "Maybe you should move out," and turned it into reality. Except I left on my terms, with dignity, with support. With a better life waiting for me, Donald wanted control. He wanted power. He wanted me small, obedient, and dependent. Instead, he got silence, abandonment, and humiliation. And the cherry on top? Watching his smug empire crumble the second I walked away. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It's not screaming or slamming doors or throwing punches. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is quiet. It's walking away with your head held high, while the person who tried to control you drowns in the mess they created. So if this story gave you chills, smash that like button and drop a comment. Have you ever had a toxic roommate? What's the pettiest or most satisfying way you ever got back at them? And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more stories of sweet, sweet payback.